about 10 of you. That's good. Let's try to get 25. Are you ready for the word?
Yes!
All right. Well, if you have your Bibles, and I hope you do, let me invite you to turn with us to Philippians chapter 4. Chapter 4. Most of you all did recite this. That's fine. Philippians chapter 4. Chapter 4, verse 13. Stand with me. Stand with me. Stand with me. 4 and 13. Come on, you know Grandmama taught you that one. Philippians 4 and 13. Grandmama taught you that one. Come on now. If you don't know it. No, take it off the screen. No, take it off the screen. Put something else up there. They ought to know it. Take it off the screen. It's still on the screen. Take it. Thank you. Philippians 4 and 13. Come on. I can do all things through that. New International Version would say, I can do all this through Him that gives me strength. That's enough. That's enough. Y'all sit down. I can do. Y'all are slow though. I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. I can do all this through Him that gives me strength. I want to talk about today, you can do it.
All right.
You can do it. I have noticed that people have such a pessimistic approach to life in general. Many times the first thing we look at is what we are unable to do. We can't do this, so we look at doing that. Kids will say they want to be a doctor, and we would tell them, well, you know, it takes a long time to do that. People will bring you their dreams, their hopes, and their ideas, and the first thing we do is think about how it will fail. But in life, we need to hear the words of Scripture that simply say, I can do all things. In New King James, I can do all this. New International. Another version says, I can do everything. Have you ever had an idea and someone shot it down? It was good for somebody, just not for you. Have you ever had someone go through something, and when you talked about going through the same thing, they said, well, I don't know if you would really like to try that? Ever had someone to question your approach to a thing because maybe they don't think that's the best way? Ever been excited about something and you shared it with somebody and you had prayed about it, you had worked it all the way through, you were ready for any alternatives or any kinks in the plan, and you even give time and leeway for any type of deviation, but they look at you like you're crazy? Have you ever been in a situation that you actually thought, oh God, that you wasn't going to make it through, and you go to your sister and your brother and they look at you and agree? I don't know how you're going to get through this one. Baby, I couldn't imagine being like that. Have you ever been in a situation where the doctor had to shake his head, but thank God you knew he wasn't the final answer? Have you ever been at the end and they told you that you weren't supposed to make it, but on the back end you said, but I did? That was a class in college. I started college in 1999. graduated in 2013. And a lot of people said, wow. But I didn't go to college all those years. Come on. I mean, I could have been the president after 15 years of school, well, 14 years of school. But I left. And I went back. Got my associates. Went back to Alabama. And that was one class and one assignment that almost cost me my education. It was finance. And I know you would say, finance? Yes, I said finance. It wasn't the class, it was the 25-page paper that they wanted you to write on finance. Who wants to write all that about money? Money ain't that important to me. Money is a game to spend. I'm one that feel like money saved is good when it's time to spend it, but it ain't no good while you save it. A lot of people like to hold money and to look at it, and I don't really know what it ain't my business. But in this class, I would get to the paper and I would get scared. Honestly, the one thing in life that intimidated me was a 25-page paper. I got to it the first time and I took care of it. I dropped the class. I got to it the second time. I started to write it, and then the class dropped me. I got there to the third time, and I ended up, how do I say it, failing. And it wasn't because I didn't do good on the papers, because I didn't do the paper. So I finally decided in my mind, I can do it. And after my wife said, we're not going to pay for this class again, I decided I better do it. And when I got through it, I made a 96 on the paper. I had never written any more than 3 pages on this paper. But what I did was, number one, I got a tutor. I got some help. And I began to look at this thing like, well, if I got to do it, I got to learn first, what am I writing about? Outline it, and actually start it before it's due. And step by step, I wrote one of the best papers I had ever written. But it started with a mentality that I can.
Come on, all right.
Because when you start off with I can't, you've already failed. Whenever you start off by telling yourself that you can, who can convince you that you can do what you've already decided that you can't do yourself? Who can convince you of something that you have already decided I cannot do? Now, I went to get my degree evaluation, and I noticed there was a discrepancy on my transcript. I talked to the advisor, and she said, well, we noticed that same discrepancy, and Mr. Oliver, you were right. And so therefore, what we did, instead of rectifying it in the way that you were suggesting, we overlooked the fact that you enrolled for finance 4 times. So we saw that you dropped it a couple of times before the semester started. But there is a policy at the University of Alabama that you cannot enroll in a major class any more than 3 times. See, when you do all that you can do, God will take care of stuff that you didn't even see. See, a lot of times, we don't take care of what we are responsible for. And all you're responsible for in life is to do all that you can. And God will take care of all that you can't. But the reason that we can't do what we know God has given us the ability and the skill to do is because we decide that we are not going to do all that we can. The fact is, no, you can't do anything on your own, but you can do all things through Christ that gives you strength. And when God gives you the power, you just need to do your part and He will do the rest. In the text, we have Paul writing to the Philippian church. He's writing to the Philippian church, and this is one of his favorite churches. He loves this church, and this letter is written about 30 years after the ascension of Jesus and about 10 years after Paul's first sermon to the Philippians. He's writing this book, and he's taught many different things, but he gets to the end and he says something interesting. He says something that many of us don't say. Thank you. That's all he's saying. He's concluded the letter. The letter is being concluded. This is a conclusion. He's leaving out, but he says to the Philippians, thank you. You have finally renewed your concern for me. Not that you were not concerned, but you didn't have the opportunity. Now, I'm not saying this because I'm in need. This is what has happened. Paul is in jail. Paul is in a Roman jail, and he's writing 4 letters. Philippians, Colossians, I believe, Ephesians, the Galatians, and then he's writing Philemon. And in this one, he decided to tell the Philippians, thank you because you renewed your love for me. Meaning, they sent him aid. They sent him aid. And here's the thing. They sent him aid. And they said, thank you. I know you were concerned because when I first started, you were the church that sent me aid again and again when I was in need. You were the church that helped me. You were always there for me. And all he's really saying is, thank you. But I'm not saying this now because I'm in need. Meaning, a lot of us, sometimes we say thank you so we can get more. We teach our children that way. Mom, can I have another cookie? Mom, can I have another cookie? You already had a cookie. Yeah, Mom, can I have another? What do you say? Thank you. Thank you. All right, now, how do you ask? Can I have another cookie, Mom? What do you say? Please. And we give them another cookie, right? And we ultimately teach our child not necessarily to be appreciative, but to say the right things in order to get. I'm sorry. I just threw a curveball in the parenting 101. So we have to teach our children to appreciate, not just say the right thing. Paul here is appreciative of what they have done for him. And he's saying, I'm not saying this because I'm in need, because actually, I have learned to be content in all situations, in any and every situation, in all of my circumstances. I've learned to be content in whatever situation I'm in. I have learned to be content, whether I have nothing or I have plenty. I've learned. I've been in those situations. I've been hungry and I have been well fed. I've been rich. I've been poor. I've been homeless. I have had shelter. I have learned to be content in all of my situations. That's what Paul has said. I learned to be content because guess what? I can do all things. Now that's where many of us miss it. We've talked about this before, that many of us like to say all things, meaning I can do the things that are above and beyond myself because Christ gives me strength. That is true. Yes, God can do it. If you do your part, He will do the rest. God will do it. But what He's saying is all things mean all things. Paul said, could do that. When I had not, I could do that. When I was poor, when I was homeless, when I had shelter, when I was hungry, when I was well fed, I can do all that through Christ who's giving me strength. These are three things that you need to see. In life, if you are going to have the yes, you can mentality, if you're going to know that you can do it, you have to, number one, have the I can mentality. That's number one. The I can mentality. Many of you are in situations right now and you are wondering and asking yourself, how am I going to make it? Maybe you can ask the question, God, will I make it? God, how can I make it? God, will I ever get out of it? God, can I ever overcome? And you have to have, and I'm not talking about President Obama, I'm talking about God Almighty. You have to have the yes, I can attitude. Yes, I can. You know what my biggest problem? Not that my problems matter to you, but they're mine, so they matter to me. My problem with people is that you can have, but you decide you can't. Why can't you have what everybody else has? Why can't you achieve what others have achieved? I have the distinct pleasure now of knowing two men, more than that, but two that absolutely blow my mind. I was in New Orleans this week, and I got a chance to run into two friends that are head of denominations in their respective denominations. Fred Luter is a friend. He's the president of the Southern Baptist Church. Y'all might have heard of that. Let me tell you the history. Southern Baptist Church, really quickly. The American Baptist Association, I think they call it ABA, was the Association of Baptist Churches during the time of slavery. And during the time that the slaves got their freedom, white pastors were convicted and said, we as leaders should not have or own slaves. So the ABA decided that they were going to give a mandate that no pastors can have or own slaves. Okay? Well, of course, that didn't go over very well with the guys here in the South. So they decided, yes, we can have slaves. We have a right, and you don't have the right to take that away. You can't take away our right to own slaves. And so therefore, they left and they began and they started the Southern Baptist Convention. That's the true history of the convention. And they started it in order to own slaves, on their right to be racist and oppressive. Okay. Over the years, the Southern Baptist Church changed their mentality somewhat, and the leadership not too long ago, I think early 90s, they penned a resolution apologizing, acknowledging their place in the civil rights movement, meaning they're being on the wrong side of the civil rights movement, on the wrong side of racism, on the wrong side of bigotry, on the wrong side of hate, acknowledging that, and they voted it into their archives, and now it's a part, and they actually extended this to one of the men that were there who were African American. And not that he necessarily spoke on behalf of black race. I hope that wasn't the thought, but that man today is the president of the Southern Baptist Convention. You might have heard of Barack Obama. I don't know him, but he's the president of the very nation that brought people over from Africa and enslaved them. Now, instead of just building the White House, we live in the White House, right? That's a man that I have come to know, Fred Luter, and he preached there at our convention. I was able to talk with him, and we had a good talk. But it's amazing to watch a black man in a historically racist convention become the president of said convention. I can mentality. Let's go back on the other side. Maybe I'll talk about another man that I know. His name is Bishop James Feltus. Bishop James Feltus is the presiding bishop of the Church of God in Christ United. He is 93 years old. That means he was born in 1907. Get my math right? 1907? Yeah, that's good. That ain't right. That's right. It ain't right. When was he born then? I'm going to get the math right. 1911. That better? That ain't right? I don't think y'all can count. 1923. That right? 21. He's old. He's old. He was born a long time ago. 93 years old. He has 8 degrees. 2 of them are doctorate. I said 93. We didn't even get the vote. Well, y'all do math. I ain't doing no math. I was good until then. 93 with 8 degrees. He was one of the first to actually graduate from New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary. He has degrees from Xavier, Southern University. Campbell College is now in Paul Jackson State in Mississippi. 93 years old, sitting in a chair because he broke his knee. We had a conversation while I was in New Orleans, and do you know what he asked me? He said, son, do you know the 2 major parts of theology? I'm like, well, yeah. Salvation, or redemption, and sovereignty. He smiles and he sits back and he says, but do you know God's sovereign acts and his redemptive acts? And at 93 years old, he begins to justification, glorification, sanctification, just like that. He said, what about Revelations? Have you looked at the apocalyptic literature? 93 years old. And he begins to spit off. He says, follow me. And wheels his chair back to his library, brings up his book. He said, I'm working on another book about Revelations. It's going to print right now. And we begin to talk. And then he began to talk about different things in the New Testament. And I said, yeah, we're reading now about the intertestamental periods. And we're reading a lot about what is happening in the so-called silent years. He sits back again and smiles. He said, silent years, that's a funny thing because so much happened. I said, yeah, for them to be silent, they said so much. And he says, hold on, come back and follow me. I got a book on that. I want to show you the class that I wrote for Southern University. And he brought out his book and he began to show me all of these things. Now, he's 93 years old. And these things he has not lost. He's spitting them out. And then he said, son, what was the beginning of exegesis? And he takes the next 30 minutes and he breaks down the beginning of exegesis to me. I'm a seminary student and now a 93-year-old professor is taking me to school. Oh my, we go! And for hours, a 93-year-old man who lived in a day where black people didn't have the right to do anything that holds 8 degrees, 2 that are doctorate, and the school that didn't want to allow him to come in, actually had asked him to come back and teach a class. You ought to have an I can mentality. You got to look that there are people who've done the things that we are telling ourselves that we can't do. But this is the thing, Punchinella. If you can do it, I can do it too. Yes, I can. I can. Watch what Paul says. And what he said, I've learned to be content in whatever situation I'm in. That's the first thing that we mess up on. We don't know how to be content. We don't know how to deal where we are. Many of us can't sit where we are, but we keep looking at everybody else's chair. What you said. You gotta go. You better go on because I'm gonna preach this one. I ain't gonna rush today. Many times instead of sitting where we are, we're looking at everybody else's chair. But you got to be careful. A man said this at the convention. He was preaching about James and John, the sons of Zebedee, who went up to Jesus and said, can we sit on your left and sit on your right? He said, those seats are not mine to give. He said, but one thing about it, if you want the seat, can you drink the cup? This is not mine, this came from the convention. But he said, can you drink the cup? And then they said, yes. He said, well, this is the thing. I'm not giving you the seat, but guess what? You will drink the cup. You'll go through the same thing that I have to go through. I'm going to be crucified. I'm going to be hung. I'm going to bleed and I'm going to die. Guess what? You're going to suffer just like me. Y'all come on, look close. I got to tell you something. Many times in life, you ask for things and you don't know what it takes to get there. You're looking at the chair, but you hadn't looked at the cup. You're looking at the success, but you hadn't looked at the suffering. You're looking at the position, but you ain't looked at the pain. And one thing I tell you, when you get the pain, the suffering, oh God, and the cup, you got to know that if it's for you, you got to go through it in order to get it. Don't get inside of it and decide you can't do it. No, you want it to tell, go through and drink from the cup. Somebody say, I can. You better watch what you say. Because see, a lot of you want it and you can have it, but don't get discouraged in getting it. It's going to be hard. It's going to be tough. But God is glorified and magnified by taking you through what you thought you could not go through. He's glorified when you get weak and you can't do it. And he decides, yes, you can. Number 2, I can mentality. Man says, I can do all things. I can do all of this. And then, number 2, you got to have, number 1, I can mentality, but I can what? What can I do, Pastor? That's number 2. You got to have the mentality and the perspective that I can do. Somebody say, all things. They ain't convinced yet. Y'all want to go back to I can? I got time. You know, they pay me to be here all day. Let's try it again. You can do what? All things. See, there's 3 of y'all right over there that say it. I can do all things. I got you. You know I'm on that. Y'all over here. I can do what? All things. Up, right there in that section. I can do what? All things. Y'all help them out. You can do what? All things. See, that's a successful bunch right there. If they ain't, they faking. What about y'all? Y'all messing up. I'm talking about, you know what? Go sit in that section right there, bro. You with the wrong crowd. Birds of a feather flock together. You need to fly away. Fly. Ask the Lord to make you a blade so you can fly far away. Let me check with your friends one more time. Y'all can do what? All things. See that? You done influenced everybody. Good job, son. Stay where you at. You have to have the all things mentality. Now let's take this back to what Paul is saying. Paul said, I can do all things. What do Paul mean? Paul said, I have been hungry, I have been well fed. 1 Corinthians chapter 4, you will hear when Paul says we are like fools for Christ. He said, when we are honored, but he said you are honored, but we are dishonored. He said we are fools, but you are wise. He goes on to tell them that right now, listen, right now we are homeless. We are hungry right now. You remember what Jesus said? The man says, I want to follow you, Jesus. I want to follow you. He says, birds have nests. Then he goes on to simply say, foxes have holes. Then he goes on to simply say, but the Son of Man has what? Nowhere to lay his head. See, many of us want the success, not the suffering. But how can you walk in the success if you couldn't make it through the suffering? It's hard to sit in the top chair. I see the top chair can be lonely. So God, through suffering, helps you learn how to be by yourself. big word. That means that you got to be able to walk away from your no good friends that don't think they can do, and therefore since they don't know how to do it and don't think they can, they'll hold you back and tell you, no you can't. And you got to say, yes I can. I've been there for you all your life. Well, keep being there for me now. Quit acting a fool around here telling me that I can't do any better. If you're my friend, know that I'm going to come get you when I get there. You got to be able to do all things. That means you got to be able to be by yourself. You got to know how to suffer. Paul, can I give you another? Paul said this, Romans chapter 7. He says, listen. Of course I got to go. Listen. The things I want to do, that's the very thing that I don't do. The things that I do, those are things that I don't want to do. And he said, oh God, oh, what a wretched man that I am. Who shall save me from this body of death? Paul says again, he says, as a thorn that was given to me in my side, it was a message of Satan that buffeted me, lest I think more highly of myself than I ought. I asked God to remove it. But this is what happens. Paul gets to a point where he believes that he can't make it. And he says, God, you got to remove it. I can't do it. But God says, my grace is sufficient. Paul says, oh, what a wretched man that I am. Who shall save me from this body of death? He said, I thank God through Jesus Christ. See, you can do all things. You can be hungry. You can be homeless. You can be well fed. You can be successful. You can be rich. You can do it. But you need the third point. You got to have the through Christ that gives me strength mentality. Some of us think we can, and we believe we can do all things, but we put the wrong person at the end of that. We say, through myself that gives me strength. That's what they say, pull yourself by your own bootstrap. I never understood that, because I figured if you pull your own bootstrap, you'll fall, or maybe you already was down. I don't know what a bootstrap, I don't wear boots. I don't know what they were talking about. Looked like they were levitating when I tried to paint a picture in my head, but I can't figure out what they were saying. But this is the thing. I can do all things, but it's got to be through Christ. See, many of you are failing because you are depending on your own ideas. You are depending on your own strength. You are depending on your own wisdom. You are depending on your own strength. And this is the thing. You don't have enough strength to get it. And if you find enough strength to get it, you ain't got enough sense to keep it. Somebody put that on the coffee roll. Many times in this life, we depend on our friends. That's why our world crumbles when they leave. Sometimes we depend on ourselves. That's why when we get it, we lose it. But Paul had the mentality that Jesus Christ will save me from my situation. And God told him, my grace is sufficient. And then I love the doxology that he gives when he simply says this, now unto him. Well, that's the second one. But that can do exceedingly and abundantly above all that we can ask or think. See, not only does that go with the all things, but that goes also to the one who's able. Amen. God is the one that's able to do exceedingly and abundantly. We're the one that's in the position to ask. God can do it. We just got to know how to ask. And God is the one that not only can you do what you think, and not only can you do and achieve what you ask for, but you serve a God that can do exceedingly and abundantly more than not only you can ask, but even your mind can conceive. So what I'm trying to tell you, not only can you do what's in your mind, but you serve a God that can do exceedingly and abundantly more. You say, what if I make a mistake? He also says, in a doxological statement, now unto him that's able to keep us from falling. See, many times in our life we worry about falling. We worry about failing. But I thank God I serve a God that can keep me from falling. Does not mean I might not trip up sometime, but it does mean that I ultimately will not fall and be down where I cannot be picked up. I don't have to worry about failing. All I have to do is worry about being successful. Learning how to keep that which God will reveal. Paul says, I can be hungry and I can be well fed. He says, I can be in a situation where I have a house or I am homeless. I can go through the storm and the rain. I can do exceedingly and abundantly because of my God. I can go through the storm and I can make it to the sunshine. I can be there when people like me, and I don't mind being there when people don't like me. Paul had been through times when they stoned him and thought he was dead. Paul had seen boys die in his presence, but Paul never got to a point where he thought he could not. But Paul went down to a little boy and said, I can. He looked down at the little boy and laid on top of him, and he picked that little boy from the dead. He put him back into life. And the Lord did through Paul what he can do through all of us, and that is all things. Is there anybody in the room today that say, I can do all things through Christ that gives me strength? I'm going to try that one more time. I can do all things through Christ that gives me strength. Say, I can do all things through Christ that gives me strength. I can do all things through Christ that gives me strength. I can do all things through Christ that gives me strength. I can stand here all day. I can do all things through Christ that gives me strength. I can do all things through Christ that gives me strength. I still got somebody over here. I can do through Christ that gives me strength. I can do through Christ that gives me strength. I can suffer. I can succeed. I can have pain. I can have power. I can have position. I can have achievement. I can have accomplishments. I can fail. I can fall. But he'll pick me up and he'll turn me around. I can make mistakes, but I can also make it. I can do it. Say all things, all things, everything, all things. Say yeah. You can do all things, all things, all things. Say yes, say yes, say yes, yeah. Strength. Say, I can make it through my marriage. I can make it through my divorce. I can make it through school. I can make it in the mill. I can get my new house. I can be content in my trailer. I can make it in public house. I can come out and buy me a house. I can make it on a bike. I can make it on Tom and Jerry. I can buy me a car. I can keep my car. I can get me another car. I can get me another degree. I can change my career. I can overcome my past. my Lord. I can say yes, say yes. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Say I can do all things through Christ that give me strength. Do you know it? Have you tried it? Ain't he alright? 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 I know he's alright. Say yes. Yes. Oh yeah. I can do all things. You can do it. Somebody in the room needs to know you can do it. You've been wondering, Lord, how can I make it? You can do it. The doors of the church are open. We're late today. That's all right. You'll be all right. You can do it. I just told you.